Shalom. This week's Sedra is Sedra Nitzavim. In our times, it simply isn't acceptable for a person to arise and say, I know better than the rest of the people, and I will tell you what our nation should do. If any person spoke to his or her neighbors with such chutzpah, they would seem arrogant and immediately lose the respect of those that they hope to lead. Yet at the start of this week's Torah portion, it seems that this is exactly what is happening. Our Torah portion begins with the Jewish people about to enter into a covenant with God. This isn't the first one. The Torah reads, "You shall stand this day, all of you, before your God, your tribal heads, your elders, and your officers, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, even the convert within your camp, from the woodchopper to the water drawer, to enter into the covenant of your God, which your God is concluding with you on this day." In his commentary to these verses, Rashi gave the background to the start of this week's Torah portion. Rashi taught that Moshe assembled the Jews in the presence of God on the day of his death in order to initiate them into a covenant with him, with God. The more prominent were in the front. They stood before the Lord in order of their rank, and afterwards all the men in Israel stood in front of God behind those people. In his commentary to these verses, the Sforno explained that the first people listed were the ones given the task to tell the nation what was in their best interests. It seems that not only is there a hierarchy of people, with the tribal heads placed ahead of the water drawers, but that these tribal heads are able to tell the people in the back, your children, your wives, even the convert within your camp, from the woodchopper to the water drawer, what was best for them. Is the Torah really this hierarchical? The Ramban explained the reason the tribal heads, elders, and officers were listed first. He wrote that the Torah first listed the overall category, tribal heads, then gave the details about who the tribal heads were, the elders and the officers. God said to gather all the elders and officers, that every person who had a position of authority in public will be called to stand at the head. The Ramban later added that the woodchopper and water drawers were Gentiles who had tricked Moshe into thinking that they were interested in becoming Jews. Really, they just wanted to bandwagon onto the Jewish people. Moshe immediately made them the lowest people in society when he discovered their lie. He made them woodchoppers and water drawers. In every society, there are people designated to make decisions on behalf of the people. In a democracy, the leaders are chosen by people who entrust them to make the right decisions for the nation. In a dictatorship, the strongest rule, and in a theocracy, God chooses the leaders. Having leaders make decisions for the rest of the people isn't novel or regressive. What is novel about the Torah's approach that we see in this week's parsha is that the people at large are commanded to be present while the leaders enter into the covenant with God. The Torah subscribes to the notion that there should be leaders with authority to enter into a covenant with God, but the people must be there as well. When the Jewish people enter into a covenant with God, it is crucial that every person be present, because a covenant with God is the most consequential decision a nation can make. The fate of the nation will now depend on whether the people keep their end of the covenant. For an important event like this, the entire nation had to be there. What an incredible lesson. Shabbat Shalom.